GBV. That is when, because we were so involved with human trafficking and me personally involved in physical rescues 10 years ago of young children. And of course, my experience years back, which always left the thought, what about the girls that never got away? What about those who never got away? So all of that then led to the formalizing in terms of paperwork of awareness for child trafficking in Africa. This tells you why we do it. We raise awareness, we provide education around human trafficking and GBV and the effects thereof. Basic assistance to victims of trafficking and gender-based violence to ensure assistance is received as well as possible. We will escalate for further referrals to allow for longer-term solutions. So we work on, our mission is saving lives through awareness and education. Our focus is prevention of and breaking the cycles of gender-based violence. So that is why the second point, you will find we do not counsel because our aim is to prevent that sore or that cut before it happens, like you would prevent your child from touching that stove. That's what we need to do. And with that goes all the tangible aspects. So I'm not going to go through everything. You can read, basically, so that we can get to the essential training of what we do. And part of what we do would be addressing things which present vulnerabilities, which situations like disasters, political upheaval, wars, natural disasters, even unnatural, man-made disasters, whatever they may be, leads to a situation of desperation. And those desperations, most times, actually 99% of the times, leads to a situation of socio-economic downturn. Now, socio-economic downturn means that, which is what is happening globally in the world. Your economics go down, our social norms and standards go down, meaning things like gender-based violence, crime, human trafficking, those things start increasing, poverty increases. So we try and get into the gap as best as we can, whenever we can, with whatever we can, resources we can, to keep anybody one step away at least from landing up in the hands of perpetrators. Perpetrators, especially of human trafficking, because they thrive on the desperations of people and take advantage of those vulnerabilities and exploit them to the nth degree. Gender-based violence, domestic violence in your homes, especially frustration levels, which we saw during lockdown, increased. Living with an abuser in a space, especially where you can't, where you have to be there many, many hours of the day, became horror for many, many people. And many couldn't speak out as well. So this is, and the problems have just, even though lockdown is now, there is some freedom of movement, but still the pain of that abuse, and it hasn't gone away. In fact, our situations have worsened. Why? The poverty line is still increased. Those desperations have remained and have increased, causing both those kind of atrocities to escalate, as people are desperate just to put bread on the table, to survive, and to feed their families. So, like today, the root causes of domestic violence, creating promoting life skills workshops, which educate the youth, in fighting the scourge of drugs, alcohol abuse, as well as escalating issues of teenage pregnancy, which we saw the stats last year of how many kids gave birth in, I can't tell you offhand now, but gave birth, which was scary. I mean, these were stats, and the very next thing to those stats is something called statutory rape. Because we found that many of those children that were pregnant, those girls were from older men. So that in itself is statutory rape or full-on rape that has taken place as a result we sit with a high teenage pregnancy rate. And that all forms part of gender-based violence. Human trafficking is a complex form of gender-based violence because of the nature in which it happens. There are syndicates involved. It's hard to crack. It has to be determined, so you don't just go to police station and saying, I'm laying a charge of human trafficking. It doesn't work like that. It's always possible or probable trafficking, and there are a number of issues which I will tell you about that is taken into account by the NPA, National Prosecuting Authority, by your SACC unit, whichever is your FCS unit involved, by your Department of Social Development, by your immigration departments, by your international relations department. So there's many that's involved, but your main three, social development, National Prosecuting Authority, and SACC gets involved. That's the main three. Three initially, and to determine that yes, human trafficking is indeed what is meant to go on those charge sheets. And whichever type of trafficking it is, obviously determined. And we have many projects on the go, which you can see. One of them is exactly what we're doing, yes, awareness and education. We've got a project called No to Violence and Stop the Traffic. It's board games, which we're currently busy with. We are praying, please pray for us. Seems like we're getting headway in terms of funding. We're praying, busy negotiating, so that will be rolled out throughout South Africa.
So, Lily, I need you to pause. Can you just talk about the board game and how the board game is going to help us children learn through play?
Yes.
Adults learn through play, especially those who are abused, who are even mute or have difficulty expressing what they learn through play. So talk us through how the board game works, and just maybe we can speak to the church to get each region a board game.
Yeah.
Let's just talk that through.
So the board games will be very interactive in the sense that 4, 5, even families. It's targeted to children between the ages of like 10, 12, and 18, because we are targeting breaking the cycle starting at grassroots level. Our children currently are quite dysfunctional, and because of growing up and learning all the negative norms and narratives and belief systems where they're coming from, it is continuing. So our cycles are continuing. So we need to break that. So this game addresses those issues of dysfunction to create a 180-degree mindset change into positive, meaning functional, contributing adults of society. The game targets GBV. One is No to Violence, is gender-based violence. Stop the Traffic is human trafficking. So it addresses it all, fully encompassing, but in a way that can relate, that child can relate to, and also in a fun way. Relate in the sense of, and especially from the boys' side of things, to the issue of toxic masculinity, which directly fuels these atrocities, especially of GBV. That is addressed in these games to break that, to change that, for boys to realize as well that I need to speak out. Not just the girls, I need to speak out. I can speak out, and I should speak out, and help is there. So that is the emphasis of the game on its own to boys and girls, the treatment of each other, and then for them to actually become advocates, encouraging them to become advocates against these atrocities. So it teaches them from that young age how not to become fall prey as victims, or become perpetrators of these kind of atrocities. So that is the game. It's a game changer. It definitely is. It's fun, and it's a kind of game that it's not like Snakes and Ladders, Ludo. Yes, there'll be a digital version as well, and the hard copy version, so that we can cater for everybody, whether you are able to afford data or not, whether your preference is digital or not, whether you're in an area that gives, where you are allowed to use technology or not. everything's catered for. So if you're in a rural area especially, and we know signal and stuff, then your hard game, copy game, the old-fashioned way would be great. And we know that is quite fun at the end of the day, instead of sitting, because then you know the gaming situation where you get groups actually coming and sitting together and they play these games on their computers, etc. So that's the new way of playing games. In my opinion, I still prefer the old-fashioned way. Yeah, but this is what it does. And soon, God willing, we can start rolling this out throughout South Africa, starting in South Africa, and then we're going to the rest of the continent and then the rest of the globe. So, yeah, that is it. And then alongside our poverty and disaster relief I spoke about, and our self-defense workshops, which we are busy with, we were at the Human Rights Festival at Constitution Hill the past weekend, and it was excellent, and we had Krav Maga display, which is the form of self-defense technique that we teach. And that we go to our orphanages and shelters and, give these basic skills of self-defense training. And then, of course, our awareness and education. And in the pipeline, we've got another project that is coming along in terms of speaking to our youth, especially with the gangsterism in our areas, and the youth not listening to our parents, for them to realize the box that they're in is not all that there is in their life. There are other things to expand out to reach out to take notice of, in order to capture them there, capture their strengths, so that they go in the directions that God has willed them to, and away from all the negativity where they think there is no other choice. This is where I'm accepted. This is where I feel good, in this gangsterism. Or at school, I'm just plain stupid, but yeah, I'm like a king or a queen, or whatever the case may be. And those are, that's in the pipeline, which we will still, we're busy putting it together. So I'm giving you a sneak preview of what's coming with one of our other projects. So our younger crew will be running with that, which would be my daughter, that the idea, and then of course Matthew and some of the other younger crew that is there. So my volunteer base is a lot of young people as well, especially in the arts, music industry. Some are teachers, some are principals, some are in law firms, etc. So there's a real good cross-section of people in the team that it makes things happen as it should, and is the support base. Yeah. So that's just about our projects. Let me just clear the notifications. Yeah. And these are just some pictures and stuff. I'm not going to go through it. Oh, and we won an award last year, Human Rights Award in Nigeria, International Human Rights Award, which you see over there. We've brought that home to South Africa, being the only South African organization, and won it. There were over 300 organizations who entered across the country, across the continent, and we were blessed and won the Human Rights Award. And yeah, that is it, and that's just some statistics I can give you on human trafficking, which between 2016 and 2019 increased by 164%. And now it's even worse. So I haven't redone those, but that is just in a short period of COVID, what had happened over a period of 2 months in the screening. And it's not very clear, but just to tell you that that was the graph which showed what had actually happened from 2016 to 2019. Based on information we had gotten from the Democratic Institutions and Human Rights and United Nations entities. So all of this was put together by us. Yeah. And then 1 in 3 women, GBV, that still is the case. And it's 1 in 5 men, according to statistics, that are exposed to gender-based violence. And that's our social media handles. So please follow us. If you're on Instagram, please go on and look for ACT Africa and follow us, and Awareness for Child Trafficking Africa on all the other platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc.
And then every region will receive an information leaflet, so you don't need to write that down. It's here.
And then this is just how you can help us, our bank account and our QR code to take you straight into our PayFast link where you can donate. So every cent helps. Thank you. Yeah. So that's just a bit of the bio. So I'm going to now go back to the awareness and education that we're going to do. So we will start with gender-based violence, right? Okay, I'm not going to do the human, or do you prefer the human trafficking? Tell me, which one?
There's 2 sessions. Stick with GBV.
Okay, so I'll do GBV.
Got an half an hour for that.
I will go quickly on.
At 11, which is a long session.
Okay.
That will be so just stick with GBV.
So I will start with the strategic plan on gender-based violence. Okay, I called it that. And because it's important that as leaders in the church, where you also know what this national strategic plan is and where we're fitting in and what needs to be done. And yeah, so we've given you a bit about that. That's just giving you. So here's a little short video on human trafficking. So if I can just GBV, sorry. I got
To violence. For GBV, it's violence against someone based on their gender. It is rooted in gender inequality and harmful attitudes about the roles of women and men in society. Because of this, women and girls are at much higher risk of GBV. There are many kinds of GBV, including physical, hitting, punching, choking, stabbing, and shooting. Sexual acts are common without permission. Emotional, controlling, shouting, insulting, and withholding affection. Financial, controlling access to money. Violence against children. Sexual abuse, physical or emotional abuse. Neglect and domestic violence. Intimate partner violence. Violence committed by a partner, husband, or boyfriend. Femicide. Murder of women and girls. GBV is never acceptable. Violence, or GBV, is violence against someone based on their gender.
Hey, thank you so much.